Hello and welcome to episode 39 of building a 2D Flutter game. We are having a little of a problem. We are trying to add multiplayer support and basically have the server dictate. Whether we have an authoritative server that's supposed to dictate the state of the client. We can see the server is ticking here at 100 milliseconds. Every 100 milliseconds it's ticking. And what's happening is here, I actually understood now what's happening while I was taking the break, is the client is basically predicting the player movement. The player has a velocity, and then the server comes in and says, no, actually you're here. So the client's trying to move, predicting where the client should be, and then the authoritative server says, no, you're actually not here, you're here. So that's why our client is kind of jiggling like this, right? And here kind of we can also see what kind of delay we're looking at if we are 100 milliseconds tick rate, right? So we wanted to basically say, okay, we want to figure this out, and maybe we'll do this all a client side, sorry, with a terminal instead of launching the whole app. Another thing that I wanted to do the first is I wanted to maybe figure out how can we restart our client quickly, right? And basically make some changes on the server and have it restart here somewhere, right? And so basically what we'll do is I'll look at the version where I built this before, because I remember that I had something in there that made that possible. So I'm going to look at the main file here, and there is some override that you can do, reassemble, right? So we're going to take that function out, and this reassemble is what's going on here? We're going to go super reassemble. Okay, so that's part of Flutter. You can see that that's the widgets framework, right? So that's part of I think of a widget or something like that, right? So let's see where we are in. Yeah, it's a stateful widget, right? So if we want to take that, we can say can try to see if we can maybe then disconnect the client and reconnect the client or something like that. So we need that in the state. Was it in the stateful widget or in the stateless widget? Let's see. In the state, part of the state. So where's our state here? So we're going to put that here. And what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to remove the game. Let's see how this works. So because the very first time when we build, right, if our game is null, we sync the client game. Actually, what we need to do though is we need to actually create a new client and everything, and then we need to reconnect. So might not be possible to do it this way, unless we do this all in the init method. Okay, let's not worry about this for now then. Or maybe we'll do. We'll figure it out. So basically we want to right, when we basically I'm gonna put a method here called and basically we'll do all this here. So we'll say do this, and so we'll need the level and the server IP passed to us. So when we create this, we need to pass the level and server IP, which means it needs to be passed to us. So the arena and all this stuff we get from the client, this one we get, this one we get. So basically all this stuff here we don't need anymore. We'll put that here. And I'm moving this down here so we basically get this update. We can update this whenever we recreate the client, right? So we can control better when we actually start a new game. Okay. Needs to be async. So level. So we need the level, and we need it now. So basically here we need the level basically, which is string. And then we need a final another string, which is the server IP. Right? And so then we create a constructor we create the state, we pass it in, we make it all required, even though, as we all know, our required currently is kind of in a disabled state, but it still helps also for myself to see this. So then we say level, and then server IP, a server IP. So so what's the problem now? Oh, because we don't have that here yet. We need the same. Let me think about this. So the arena, we get all this here, right? So basically what we need to do actually is move all these down here into our state, make them non-final, and then basically just assign them like this. All right, so we don't need this anymore, but what we do need is these things. To then pass them on. So basically just copy these guys over here. Okay, so now we got that. Okay, so now we get this. Now we can basically get that. So now this is basically the client game state. We don't need this getter anymore. And whenever we say widget, we probably just need to remove that. Let's see. All right. Okay, so now we got this. Don't need the widget here either. Okay. And so what we're going to do is when we are recreating the client, we're going to make sure that and we did the game statement. That's what I wanted to say. Game statement. If we already have one. Oh, so we don't have a subscription. Here we're creating this client game state event. Where do we actually listen? So here. I hope our stream builder will automatically unsubscribe, and I think it does. I think we can overwrite some sort of an init method. Is there such a thing? Nope. I thought there was some sort. Let me look at what we can overwrite here. init state. That's what I wanted. Right. So now in init state, we're going to say that create client, and we're actually going to await that. So, but init state doesn't know that we are waiting stuff. So maybe. Yeah, we're gonna have a problem here because this game state event will not be set yet necessarily by the time we run build. I mean, what we could do, we could say if basically. I mean, I wonder what happens when we do give it a build stream builder. If we give it like a initial data, what if we give it a stream that's null, right? What happens there? Yeah, it's going to subscribe, right? But it's going to subscribe only if it's not null. Interesting. So maybe what we can do though then is we say that once we set the stream here, we say set state. Right, just to make it update. So we do create client here. What's wrong? We need to must call super. Okay. Oh, what we could actually do then is maybe we are in a better state because we can say we can await this and then call super in a state. And so create client, we can then returns as a client. Okay. Right. So we can await that and then initialize the state. And I think that maybe everything should just work, hopefully. And then reassemble. What we could do is we could say create client again. Do the same thing here. We can await and then do super.reassemble afterwards. Okay, and now this is all kind of like really hacky, right? We're just basically trying to get find somewhere where we can just drop the connection. We just create a new client. We're totally not disposing the old client. I think we have a dispose on it, maybe. Yes, we do. So maybe what we should do, well, we have input event closed. There must be other things we need to be cleaning up. Some of the channel, maybe. Is there a way to clean up the channel? Dot dispose. Nope, you can't. Okay. What about we have an updates client? There's no dispose on it. Okay, whatever. This is all like things we worry about much later. For now, we're going to be just really dirty. We init state. We basically do the same thing here. We create the client. We don't worry about the fact that here we're just dropping this client on the floor. We're not even assigning this to anything. And then basically the game starts. And whenever we decide that I think this reassemble runs. So what we're going to do, log dot. So we're going to have to create a log, I guess. Do we have a log yet? I thought we had a log. So we create a log here of basically, let's call it my app. right? So we have our log here. Now, by the way, really important that this log is private. Otherwise, it will bleed into everywhere. So we have the same log used everywhere, and we'll not know which log we're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to say log.finest init state, and then here we have a log.finest reassemble. So we see when all of these happen. And now basically what we're going to do, we're going to stop our server and we'll relaunch our client. And then we're basically going to do some stopping and starting. And then actually once we're done with that, we won't even use it yet. We'll just probably use a command line to figure things out. Because the command line is even faster than launching the Flutter app. And if you have good logging, we can actually see immediately what's happening. So let's see here. So what I want to get to is like I want to see if I can basically just reload the client with the hot reload with a small r, because that's really freaking fast. The hot restart would also be nice. Instead return to future. Okay, so we can't do the little trick we were doing. Can't await anything. So let's try this then. Okay, let's see if we can just do a hard restart actually. Didn't init state, got a game. Okay, now let's do a reload. We didn't init reassemble. Did we get a new game? Game loop. Yeah, we start in game loops, right? So I think this is good. So basically now we could basically keep this client running. Right? And we can see that init reassemble. Okay, perfect. All right, so, and here we are allowed to return a future, so that's nice. So cool, every time we do this, we create a new game. So every time we should actually go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, look, we even got our control back. Except we can apply thrust. Okay. But I mean, so what if we do this? How to restart? Because I think it seems like we never sync our client. So now the client stopped waiting for, why is it, okay, now we, okay, that's good. So actually just with a hard restart, we kind of got back into place, and that was way faster than rebuilding the app. So I'm actually pretty happy. And that's mainly because we moved things into init state now. So that's not due to the reassemble thing. We might keep the reassemble here. I don't think it worked. So if you watch this, right, when I do a reload, it basically never really reconnected. It just disconnected from the server, but it never really reconnected ever. It goes into an odd state, and only once I do a restart, restart, then it goes back. It's kind of, let's just say it's weird at the best, but it's probably better than actually recompiling every time. So we'll leave it there, and we'll just do a little check-in that says client reinitializing connection restart, something like that. That works for now. But now basically what we're going to do is we're going to actually take the client that we have here, that works in the terminal, and we're actually going to use that one to test things out for now, because we just want to see, like, do we even get correct things from the server or not. In a way, we want basically the server to just print out if right, to just print out, like, is it updating the client correctly or not. So we have our client, and we can actually run that. So here we run this, and then we listen to state events. And so all we have to do here, so we have a log. So I'm going to create a log here that's just a main log. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what to give that, because I mean, I can give main, but I don't think that will work. I really don't know what to. I'm just going to give an object for now. So, and then we're going to say here main log. Let's see what that actually does. It gives us game state players, and so we can make that just fine. Okay, so now what we can do, we can actually launch our server again, and then we'll just launch our client, PC, and then we get the client. We got a tick. It's not printing any. Oh, yeah, that's because we didn't initialize the. We need to initialize the logger. Okay, now we're getting. Yeah, so we need to just basically print out what we're actually interested in. So player, we get the ID, and we're printing out the angle. But what we actually want to do is we want the position. So we're not moving, right, at all. So let's see about the velocity. So we're going to say velocity and then we have the position is this, right? Okay, but then you're complaining about, so I don't know what you want. Like, either you're complaining about that, and okay, so that works. All right, so that's what they want. All right, so let's see now. You can see that's way quicker, right, than what we did before. So we got a velocity of 0. That's a problem. The server thinks we got velocity of 0. Okay, so let's say where we actually set. So when we did add player, right? I think in the game model. So let's see. And I think that I already start seeing where this is going on. Because I think we only did this in a client game model, game state. No, we didn't. Okay, so where are we setting the player? Let's see. Player model. When we create one. I thought we set it to something. But why does it have velocity then? I'm a bit confused because I thought we put something in there where we basically initialize the velocity or something, right? Here we go. In the game controller. Okay, so here we're doing this. Let's remove this to begin with. So the game controller add player is happening in the game loop, which is actually in the server, right? Yes. Right, when we add the player, we give it the velocity. Huh, odd. Why would it then lose the velocity? Maybe we're not packing things correctly? Or unpacking? Okay, so we need to track this down. So when we add a player, it's pretty clear that if we do this, we clearly like, and I want to kind of move this out into the game loop, right? So it's more obvious where we're doing this. Okay. Okay, so now we got that. We're setting the player velocity to something. Now what I want to do is when we update the game state, I want to kind of log out. So right now we're having a tick, right? We're ticking, where we're ticking here, right? But what I actually want to log out also is the player. We can actually make this finer and then log finest, but we have to do this afterwards. Just basically print the game state, game state.toString. And most likely, if we implemented this toString method, it gives us the players, and each player, so if I remember, has a toString method as well, which gives us the top position, angle, velocity, all these things. Okay. Okay, so now let's go back to the terminal here, and let's kill the server, restart this guy, and then we'll just start a client, and then the server, we're going to look over here now what the server prints. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down the game loop, and so we can see better what's going on. So I'm going to make this tick every 2000 milliseconds. But in a way, I already start seeing that this is not working the way we were hoping. So starting the game loop, and then we have, let's see, the velocity is 0, 0, right? See that? And obviously we're getting the same over here. So why is the velocity, and you can see that the game loop keeps ticking, right? So that's the thing where we are not cleaning up things. But let's see, the velocity is 0. Why is the velocity 0 when we did set it to something? So let's think about that. We're adding the player to the game controller. The game controller said, okay, these are the players, and it assigns it to the player. Now that's a reference, right? So if you change something about that player, it should have changed. Then we run game controller update. And then each game controller, I think that's where the problem is, maybe? Not really. I'm not even a huge fan that we have player controllers for everything. I think one would be fine. I'm just going to change this now because this is just also confusing. So we're going to have a player controller, and oh no, the thing is that we're going to, oh no, we can't do that. Well, yes, we can, because on the client side, we also need to pass the ID. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to go over the game state. Yeah, we're just going to go over all the players, right? Game state dot players dot for each, or right, or actually I like to iterate over things. So let's make sure that I don't make a mistake here. Dart iterate over a map. So I don't want to do that. Why is this so complicated looking? Doesn't even have Dart. So yes, I have an ad blocker. I don't like to see ads. So this is what I want. For in keys, this goes over the keys. The values, it goes over values. Whatever I want over the entries. Then I get e.key.value. Okay. So I have to go over the entries. It still doesn't like it too much. So now I have to say that basically what I want is a player controller. Let's rename this guy. It's one controller. And basically I'm going to say player controller dot update. Instead of giving it like a map of players and all this stuff, I'm just going to give it the player it's supposed to update. Now the player controller does also not need a client ID anymore, because it is basically, right, the player controller doesn't store any data, like any state. It shouldn't. It's just basically a controller. It's stateless, so it's also immutable, right? There's no state here. It just has a, this could actually be static, except they were passing in these things. So update, and so now what we need to do, dt and the player, right? dt and then x, we need to divide this dot, or x dot value, right? That's it. And I think that's much cleaner. And I like to this more than the for each version for some reason. So we keep it like this. So the entries, right, they are references. So if I update the entries, we should see this. We should see this when we return the game state, right? We're basically mutating the game state in place, right? We have a map here, which are players. We pull out the player, but I mean, it's a reference. We then obviously setting, you know, things on that reference. So we should see this outside. Okay, so I mean, it does have state in the sense that it has the game state, right? So the game state itself is a state, but that game state is there once, right? we don't need multiple controllers, and that's also on the game controller, not on the not on the game player controller. So this one here, don't need this. Don't need this anymore, because now we basically just initializing it like this. Don't need this anymore. And then maybe, yeah, so we need that. Okay, cool. So we got the playground. We simplified this. And then we can remove this init player controller. Be gone. I always like it when the code gets simpler. And all we have to do is like this little loop here. And now it makes a lot more sense in my opinion. Let's try if this still works. It's called on null. From the player controller 53. Okay, so this player model passed in here is null. For whichever reason. The game state players are initialized here. It is empty. We add a player. Here. So we make sure that it's not null now. We assign it. Then these players should never be messed with. Actually, in a way, we should make this probably final. We should make sure that we cannot, right? And the thing is, yeah, I mean, even if we make a getter, we can modify the map, but now it's at least final, and also we want to probably make that final. So here we unpack something. So maybe when we unpack something is null. Let's try to restart this. Now we should get an earlier warning if this happens there. Okay, so we didn't get our warning. Update tick. So we got the game loop tick, right? Somehow when we do game controller update, so let's look at that. So game controller update, we have the. So why would that be null? So basically this is happening on the server, right? So the server is actually the one that's also adding the players. I am not sure why we're getting, so we add the player and we're making sure it's not null, right? Is there anywhere else we're accessing these guys? This is in the client game, so this shouldn't affect this at all. We have another add player. Oh, okay. So we should probably use this function. Because you want to catch it when we're adding that null player. We don't want to catch it afterwards. Right now we're catching it afterwards. And why are we still catching it afterwards? Game controller update. I'm going to launch the server here. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Actually, like we'll know. Well, I'll put a breakpoint here. Maybe here. And I'll just launch the server over here. Dot server, and we'll launch a client next to it. Yeah, I mean, why didn't it stop? Didn't I launch? Oh, I didn't launch it in debug mode, maybe? Yeah, okay, you have to launch in debug mode. And then we can close this. And then we'll launch this client again. Now we should blow up and we should stop. Actually, we shouldn't blow up, we should actually stop here. So, okay. So we got our entry back, and let's see, entry is, in our case, is X. And we have a value. Has a velocity 0, 0. Has a type position that's set. Okay, and so let's see what else we have in this map. Inside the game state, do we have some players? We have size 1, so that should be fine. All the players are non-null. Right? And then we get an exception. Tile size is not null. Tile size is not null. Hold on. Physics.move. Okay, let's do this again. We can basically just continue, and once we, well, so we should just restart the server and then just run our client again. So let's see the variables, the player value. So where's the tile size null there? Okay. Let's actually go into the update method and figure this out. I'm very confused. I'm very confused where this is even happening. Tile size cannot be null. We're even using a tile size. tile size cannot. There you go. Load position. When we create a new from type position. Okay, so the type position. But where's tile size? Oh, okay. That's interesting. We have this weird thing where we init the tile size. Oh, that's an odd one. So basically this one is initialized here in our game, but it's not initialized in our server. I'm not a huge super fan of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I'm going to allow this to be overridden still, but I'm going to just set it already, right? I mean, that was just too confusing. Oh, maybe it's because we didn't want our engine to know about. Yeah, we didn't want to. We didn't want our engine to know about our game props. I kind of see. Okay, I get it. That makes actually sense. It's kind of really weird that our engine would know about the game props of our game. That actually makes sense to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm going to put this on the server. Whenever we are initializing a game, or maybe it's actually wrong to do this here though. Maybe we should actually do this whenever we initialize something like the game controller or something, right? So then, because if we do that, then basically what would happen is we also basically we create a game controller, right? And then the game is ready to go. That makes sense. And so now that also will happen on the server. So players is final. What I want to actually do is and I think actually that where the problem is. Yes, we're reassigning it, the whole thing. Actually, making this yeah. Now I figured out our problem. So basically, what's happening is we did update our. Remember, like how we said we're taking one of these players here, and we update in place. Well, if we reassign it entirely, we totally lose that. So what we actually need to do is player from entry.id or key, I guess. What is basically entry.value, but I don't know why it's so confused. Something is odd. I don't know what's going on. So let's go. We already had this working here. I don't understand what's going on. Why is it complaining? Oh. Okay. So now we got this, and at this point we simplified things, and actually now we should get updates that work. Okay. Oh, that's because we still have our server running here. So let's kill everyone. Not in a bad way, just stop the process. So now we can It's easier to do it this way actually. So let's try this. And then okay, now we can see that we're moving, right? We're moving here. What I'm wondering is like why we're still reporting the velocity wrong, but we are moving. I don't understand why we are. Oops, I'm sorry. Why we are reporting the velocity to be 0? Maybe maybe that's because of rounding errors. Remember when we pack and unpack things? I'm not very happy that the velocity is reported as 0 here. Okay, but what we'll do now is we'll just basically connect a real client to this and see how that works. And actually I'm going to restart the server because otherwise we'll have the ticks of the other game. You find a way to kill the game properly. So this is weird. It also might be a rendering error, like when we do offset to string, maybe. Okay, now it's moving, and we can see the correction of the server. So it's corrected us once in a weird way, and now we're good. See that? So basically ClientSide Prediction is working. So we did this, and then the server put that back because it doesn't take any inputs yet. But every time, you can see like every time we move ourselves, and then we basically get corrected, it's smooth, right? So this is really, really good. So now let's see like what happens if we hit something, if the server catches that. It should. So we're going backwards. Okay. Here's a problem, right? And see what's happening here? And this is another issue we need to solve. It's basically the server has such a low update interval at this point that our collision detection didn't work on the server. Because see, by the time we collided with the wall, we were already like through the wall. So obviously this can easily be fixed with increasing. Well, there are two things. We're gonna have actually. For now, I'm just gonna put the game loop back to 100. And I'm probably not gonna. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna set the log level in the server to finer, so you don't get these messages anymore. What? Okay, all uppercase. So now we don't get those messages anymore, and so now actually our game should look. So what we'll also do, we'll give it a little bit better velocity. So I think in the game loop we are doing that. Okay, so here we're gonna give it a little higher velocity. So, and then we'll hit the wall, and hopefully it will basically catch it happening. Cool thing is now all our code is runnable just with Dart, all the server code obviously, right? Which also means we could easily test our controller code now. So we could write tests and make sure that, given this kind of arena, if the server, if the player hits a wall, we could basically see if it hit a wall or not. Okay, so now we're moving. Okay, and we can see camera follow is working. And now we're gonna hit a wall, and we should bounce back. Okay, good. But did you see that correction there? That was kind of janky. Let's see, like when we fly in the other direction, what that looks like. Because I think the collision was detected a little late on the server. So, yeah, so that's odd, right? Yeah, I think we're making our lives really hard trying to be realistic. So if you can see, like now, we're trying to rotate, the server keeps correcting us because it doesn't know yet that we are rotated. Let's see now, we hit the wall again. Let's see what that looks like. That looks smoother. Let's do one more time, and then we call it quits for today. We did accomplish something nice. We are controlling the client from server. So we have an authoritative server now that controls the position of the client. It's actually simulating the game loop and the game state and everything on the server. And you see like that little jump there. We might be able to smooth over that because we don't want that to happen every time we hit a wall, that we kind of get this little jump there. But overall, I think we're doing good. Now, if we had two players, we could probably see them both moving around. But we'll leave it at this for now, because we're actually going to, it's actually better now to keep it with one player to kind of fix these things. We can kind of see like we're getting the game loop ticks here. And you can see how so basically if we were starting to lag really behind, that means our server is doing too much. That means our server can't keep up. Too much to do and it can't keep up. But right now I don't see that at all. Okay, cool. So let's end here. Next episode, obviously we'll basically make it to where we can actually send key comments to the server. And so we can fly around, so we can see more the effects of how janky things are. And then basically what we need to do though is, so we have a tick duration of 100. That's obviously too slow because we might still fly through walls and stuff. So we're gonna have a lower tick duration, but then the duration of sending updates to the client is still gonna be 100 milliseconds, right? Every 100 milliseconds. So what we'll have to do is like we basically have a tick, and then every 10th time, if like we're ticking at 10 milliseconds or whatever, then every 10th time, whenever 100 milliseconds pass, we basically send stuff to the client. Otherwise, we don't. So we still have to implement that. I think we can remove this for now, or make it finest actually, right? And we can actually just put that here. And so we are pretty much done at this point, and you can see the warnings are getting less and less. Doing good. Next episode, I already said what we're going to do, so make sure to join us. If you're on Twitch, and if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to watch the next episode. So thank you very much for watching. See you next time.